Welcome back. Watched several videos. This is Nick Zentner's old channel, I guess. Huge Floods. Cool, interesting. He's also got a upcoming video I noticed about the Cordillera ice sheet, as well as this one I have yet to see. It's probably meant to be that I have yet to see because I needed to realize some other things first. That's how I see it. Okay, so this is what I've come to be acquainted with a little bit now. Let's see. Missoula flood map. Maybe images. Okay, this one might be. Let's see if we can find actually one of the videos. This one's real good because it's on the Google Earth. So basically it fills in here. So if we go back here, it just fills in here. So if that's this way over here. So if we follow this, I'll find it somewhere. I have so many of these open. If we follow this right here, like up this way though, because we kind of just say ice sheet. That's how science is right now. Ice sheet, and then ice is sourcing water, but that's pretty much the entire thought pattern. Ice sheet. So if we look at like this one, this is pretty much what's going on. Is the thought pattern ice sheet? Ice sheet is nothing that's saying maybe we should trace this line, and isn't it curious that this is pretty like wide? Like it's still got a lot of water in it, relatively speaking, and if we follow it, it's pretty straight. Like it's pretty straight, goes back this way, and then it reaches here, which is kind of odd because it doesn't just randomly go somewhere. It literally goes to this conduit that continues up through here in this just straight line, strongly suggestive that there's a current flowing through this way, and that is what is flowing here. And then it reaches here, and this is my thoughts, is it reaches here, generally even like to this point, probably, and splits around, goes around this resistance, around it, and then it fills in here, producing the Lake Missoula. And then what people say happens, which I'm not sure of, is that the ice dam bursts here, and then the water drains back through and floods over here. And that this repeats, although certainly I saw that video and that I talked about last time where he mentions a rotation in the water, so that's good, but in essence, I don't know the totality of evidence, so I kind of am just pondering more openly and more broadly without specifics to zero in on. But my thoughts are it fills this region, like it comes in, fills this region. Over here, there's mountains, resistance that have formed at this point. And so it comes over here. Maybe even when this forms, because we think this is the Younger Dryas and this is some other time that's not the Younger Dryas, but that's just because of the method of dating when they really were pretty much simultaneous. So probably this formed a resistance, like this flow maybe even went down through here to here. Maybe it had gone all the way down here and then went along here, maybe. Or even straight through somewhat into here. Unclear, but anyway, this mound ends up happening at some point. Probably related to another current of hot magma coming more this way, that underneath the crust. And this, though, runs into resistance, so it then fills this region. Because that's just straight, like it generally it fills over here, fills in here, but then that causes it to deflect. So I don't think it's like draining, it's just deflecting the current, which then goes over this way. Over this way. Down into here, where I guess it just kind of fans out. And my thoughts is there is maybe even a larger undetected or unaccounted for swirl that's not like etching the land as much. It's much larger. Whether or not that's like happening across all dimensions where water is fully filling the totality of the space is unclear, but certainly there is water that is doing that general thing where it's like bringing material, depositing it almost like a cloud. I've realized it might even be moving or maybe not a cloud, like I call it caterpillar marching or something. I got underground science caterpillar. This one, this stuff. Somewhere, maybe this one. It basically flows and then it stops and hangs out a little bit and builds up back pressure. So it's flowing, it's flowing, it's flowing, but these front materials are kind of building up pressure. I don't know if this is one of the instances where it's gonna like see it like moved across. The row of boulders like float across. Now it's kind of hitting this bottleneck as well, and now stop. And then pulse. This kind of thing was happening in a way, but like, that's my thoughts. Something of this nature, where there's pulses that are bringing more material. That instead of this, it's like starts to like go atop, 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 atop. Like it probably is doing that in this flow to a degree, where like things get caught here and then they just stay there, and then new stuff flows atop it, and like with enough circumstances to like really create this large scale ammonite structure going on here. I would say maybe it's also inducing layering. Maybe I can find like this, like a layer, and then, but instead of it being like this. Maybe it's my thought was it's more like a blob of material like this that's like literally coalesced into a like portion of the flow where it's more like over here and then over here's water and then there's blobs of material relatively speaking, and when the blobs come along they can deposit almost like rain down more material than other times and produce like layers of different blobs that behave as like anode separated cathode materials relative to one another, and just like store energy because it's like stored energy maybe. Converted between forms but still stored literally in a way where it like separates into anode cathode materials more so than it does like here. Like here it's just kind of a flow. I'm sure it's doing it in fractal ways, but like when it comes to big floods that are producing different layers, my guess is there's aspects of this that are really anode cathode separator elements that I can't really specify why I feel that way in this instance, let's say, but I've certainly seen that a lot in places. So I'm just speculating, I guess, that that's something that happens with like a high regularity in layering like this when there's some kind of flooding producing a spiral doing it. Like maybe not over here, it's detectable, although I just kind of scrolled over and it almost is like there's one here. Right? There's one right there, right? Something going on there. Where are we looking? It's kind of in the horns. Off the top of the head, there's a spiral here. Okay. But I don't want to get too caught up. Oh, let's go to this and just kind of here. So I took some notes. Let's just go through my notes, I guess. Not from this video, but just in general. Probably from Nick Zedner's video, mostly. Columbia River basalt. So we got a couple things going on. Which he brought into the equation, which was good. Columbia River basalt. I'm pretty sure it's here. Columbia River basalts. Images. Oh, it's the whole area. Oh. Okay, so this produces the Idaho batholith? No. It shoves the material of the Idaho batholith almost. Craton margin. Okay. 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 So we got a flow coming in this way that then boils. Like for sure it's boiling the cold. Any cold water. Like I'm pretty sure that this is going on when the Earth is expanding and it supernovaed, so it like, and maybe its atmosphere wasn't so able to keep, like, especially the northern pole warm enough, and the water just like in mass froze to a point, but then it like hit this hot magma section here, which really expedited the exchange of that into being more fluid material of water, so it melted it. As it approached it, it started to melt it more so here. And probably even like energetically, heat was able to like keep this channel flowing. It's interesting is that this side channel here. It's almost like this channel froze more so. Like this is the space it had to go into before it hit the resistance over here of the craton, but it didn't have as much hot magma nearby, so it like went this way too. Maybe, and then also this way. And maybe even also over here, across to here. Like it looks even like the paths off of this channel kind of start around here, going this way. Like there's one, I guess, here, going this way, but they're all pretty much like tapping into this. So all these channels are flowing into this. So there's a lot of like cold, icy material. Current, though, a current of cold, icy material moving this way that is especially able to flow in the currents that are tapping into this hot region of the Colombian river basalt here. Which is pretty much over this whole area. From here over, boom. Minus some sections that were higher elevation. So I guess there or something. Yeah. Minus that. Or no. Boop. So right here. Okay. Well, it flows in here. Okay, so we got the Colombian River basalt. Flooded North America from below. From below, like a large igneous province, like the Deccan Traps. But not a large igneous province. Birth of tectonic hotspot related to Yellowstone. So this, let's go. Just like when, let's see when it formed. Most vigorous 17 to 14 million years ago. Totally different, unrelated to the Younger Dryas and the Missoula flood. Totally unrelated according to interpretation if we take radiometric dating at face value. But it's actually simultaneous. So this is happening simultaneous to the Missoula flood and causing really participating in driving this from happen. So if this is really hot and this water's coming down here because it is flowing this way, but it hits it, like, it's gonna, like, go away from the hot, even though it's flowing to it, to like heat exchange. Once it gets there, it's like, oh fuck that, and it like boils away. So it basically, my thought is it causes a pressure this way that then generally swirls the region, so the flow comes down here and then goes over this way and around. Or maybe up this way and around. The flood basalt looks like it goes up that way. But so that kind of explains what's happening in terms of this current being like salt based, and then over here being freshwater based, saltwater based, freshwater based, is that there's this separator region of the Columbian River basalt forming in between the two that's just like hot and kind of pushing both boundaries back by the heat of it all. That's my thoughts. And then Bonneville flood. I had not heard of this one. Before we totally talk about Missoula. Here is Utah. Here is Lake Bonneville, inclusive of the Great Lakes. So just basically this whole region, Bonneville. So there's a lake forming here. Mind you, there's this boundary we talked about where the current comes in this way and separates left and right here. It goes up to this boundary and then just follows here as like a maximum boundary across here, and then presumably like kind of continues and creates like a wall here by just the continuation of this current, so that as currents come in this way and start to like fan out, they run into that wall, which then kind of holds a boundary like that, producing a region for like a lake to form. It's probably swirling too. It's probably got some degree of like a elongated eddy, maybe like a peanut shaped eddy. But so there's a lake here. It looks actually kind of shallow. Anytime I see a W like that, I've been seeing lots of those shapes around Missoula, like up here in the ice sheets. They draw all sorts of things where I see these little W shapes. So Bonneville drains over here this way to this river, which then comes over here, goes up here, and over this way and out. So Bonneville from Utah is considered to have also drained this way. So if there's a current coming up this way generally, creating a lake here generally, and then applying a pressure on that lake, maybe it would create a conduit up this way that then flowed through and around up through here, I guess. I guess that's the Colombian. That one's considered to have been 17,400 years ago. The Bonneville. This one, 17,400. Missoula, I think, is considered Younger Dryas. 15,000 to 13,000 years ago. It probably says Younger Dryas if I don't know. I'm surprised it doesn't. Okay, either way, 15,000, 13,000. So more recent than the Colombian flood basalts. Again, totally unrelated according to modern interpretation. But clearly, like, it would make sense if they were co-occurring, where there's this, like, cold, icy material coming down this way of water-based. That's bringing just, like, deposits of things along the way that then run into this region and interact with this current and create lake beds that then have flooding events where all these things are occurring simultaneously. Rather than millions of years ago, there's a flood basalt, and then it was hanging out there, chilling. It doesn't matter. It's just sitting there, and then in comes this ice sheet that melts and creates a flood, and then that's it. Like, they're totally unrelated in that case, in the modern interpretation. But to, like, merge them actually makes more sense. And it kind of shows that it pretty much shows the interpretation of radiometric dating is invalid for absolute ages. It's certainly valid for relative ages, especially relative to the same process used in other places. Different processes of dating are not all, like, accurately relative to one another, but relative to the same process, it's very good. So, like, anything that says KT boundary is actually at what would be that time frame, but it's just not at 65 million years. It's actually at something more like the Younger Dryas period, where this is same circumstance. So, we definitely have another ammonite here going out this way. Kind of centered here. At least this portion looks like it. It kind of fades away, like it's got things just overwritten this way. Maybe spiral in there, I don't know. Just that arc there. It's almost like the current coming out of the ammonite runs into this resistance and just arcs upward this way, into right here, where then it's flowing with the current more so. So it basically merges with the current at that point, pretty much. Bends around through here then. Probably at that point runs into the Colombian flood basalt, which then just holds the boundary like here. Where it just kind of fades away. It probably contributes to why things are happening exactly where they are in terms of just causing more pressures to stabilize as things did, but it's not flowing into it where it's got like distinct line going across. It does kind of point to Flathead Lake here. Okay, another thing, Wallula Gap right here is all the water in here that comes along here. All this water, and in order for it to get out, it has to go through Wallula Gap. So this boundary has a like exit point. Kind of made me think of a siphuncle. An exit point for the current over here. That is a small, almost like a puncture hole. Okay. And then this place, so whenever floods would happen, they would produce Lake Lewis here. So let's go back here. Maybe this one. Lake Lewis. Notably, there's this structure over here where if we go to like, actually I'll just here. Where is the thing I'm looking for? I know it's in here. There it is. Okay. If we go to Australia, it's got that feature here. That's kind of what I'm thinking, is there's an ammonite here. So back here, we've got this ammonite structure, but it's forming like a mass here and then like a valve here that fills. So I'm kind of thinking that is reminiscent of how this feature is. Let's see if we can watch this one. How it's like filling up so much pressure that it begins to go over there. Notably with this rounded edge here, cross here, boundary here. And then it's just filling this and creating that, like, basically the same structure as this, I feel like. So there's a current of hot coming in here, cold from a top, current of hot sideways, cold below or above this way, cold water based, although probably rock based too, just based on how it's layering and depositing material in mass. So it's probably cold water based but rocky. This is probably hot, rocky, magma-based. And then salt water, maybe something in between hot, rocky water. I don't know. but something differentiating where maybe it's just salt-based water flowing in this way. So there's a flow generally coming like this way, over here, over up here. I don't know where it goes after that. That's right, it went this way. So this one basically goes counter to this one. Now that I notice, yeah, it actually looks like it goes counter to this. Cross here. So this comes in, drops down, it goes across, enters in. And where it enters in seems to be related to the furthest this goes. This green portion relative to here too, for some reason. Like there's a current going this way, a current going this way. Maybe that produces a swirl here. Goes with it. And then against it, so it turns. With it, against it, turns. With it, against it, turns. And just swirls here. So then this goes this way. I feel like, and then this is going this way. I don't know enough about these flood basalts. It's probably like a pretty good dating on how it sequentially formed. Order of Columbia River flood basalt. "43 distinct stratigraphic members." Let's see. This is down at the south, very southeast Oregon is this blue section. What is that about? It's like here. Steen's basalts. Yellowstone Snake River Plain Track. So I think this hotspot forms, current comes in here, fills this with pressure, and then it solidifies against against the batholith that is pushing. It's like pushing a batholith into being, but forming a structure that then the current flows under and then ends up going underneath the crust through maybe around here too to Yellowstone. Starting over there. So pretty much starting where the flood basalts end. Like these flood basalts go all the way to here and then they end. And then they go under. Go all the way to here. And then they end. Let's go back here. Let's go across here, across there. This arrow straight across. Boom. They can't enter this current. Anything this wide, they can't really push past it. So they just get to the boundary of it, and probably even, honestly, like, it goes like that past Bend, Oregon, maybe. Let's see. I don't remember if... Portland, Bend. It's in Bend, Oregon, at this bend. At the bend that goes la 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 over here, la la la, bends this way. Continue straight though now. Straight, 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 straight. Straight all the way to the mountain bend at the mountain. Goes this way. Maybe even current from over here keeps going through, and like there's a current coming down this way, so this one goes through over this way, makes it all this color, and just goes as far as it can go. Maybe. What else we got? What else we got? Western Lake from Lake Lewis, very Ammonite Lake, I said, yep. Exposed to 10,000 years of thunderstorms. The Missoula area. Missoula flood, 10,000 years thunderstorms. That's what Nick Zentner brought up in this. Somewhere in here he mentioned 10,000 years of thunderstorms. I don't know why. But it immediately caught my attention. And he was talking about possibly over here, like in the Missoula Lake area that was over here, forming down into here. Not sure. Not sure. But seemingly there's that going on too, where there's like lightning storm, just a bunch of energy creating records of just endless thunderstorms. Okay. But little eroded. Like somewhere in here, it's not as eroded, which makes me think of ammonites. Like certain regions are eroded. These shallograms would be better because of their particulates. Like this stuff. This stuff. But like, let me see if I can just get an example. They're all fine. I'm just looking for something, I guess, like this. Like it's kind of got particulate stuff here where it's etching out. That's what it made me think of. Like, but then there's structure here that's very sound. So some of the places where the current's flowing everywhere, but some of the places it's just kind of etching around. It's like normal shapes, and then other places it's very chaotic. But there's like sandy materials there, like orderly, like it's there. It's not like removed entirely from the whole of the rock. It's like within the rock as part of the system in specific locations regularly based on the patterns. So that's what I was thinking, is that sometimes within this ammonite structure, there's certain locations that are oddly able to retain the subtle particles of like silts. So this is what he was saying is in the north, there are white, dusty deposits of rocky powder, silts from grinding power to the north. So, like, there's some kind of grinding going on up here. It even looks like right there, there's another gear, like right here, a small one. Probably many of them that are just like places where the heat is pushing back, and just this current, this energy is pushing back, and this is pushing back, and their boundary just becomes eddies that are swirling, that then like lead to retained areas though of silts maybe, that then the overall structure ends up being more ammonite-like, because they're kind of like pixelated stem cells participating in the whole. That by themselves are just little currents, but together are part of the ammonite kind of thing. Then he said, in the riverbeds of, let's look at this, Clark Fork River. So in this river, 9 Mile, he's saying around 9 Mile even, so in this area, there are very large the deposits within the river are rock, not mud. They're rocks, not mud. I was like, what did I write? Which is suggestive of a high energy current flow. It's rocks dominate the valley floors below the strand line. So they're basically saying it's anomalous that this is happening, first of all. Like, it usually is mud. And the reason it's happening is because extremely high currents were flowing. And then there's big boulders here, which is interesting. It makes me think of like a venting, like pew, 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 pew. Like some location where it's just like spawning eggs. Kind of like a sea creature that's just putting out ridiculous quantities of eggs. Like it's this ammonite structure just putting eggs out through a specific conduit channel that it especially vents through, but it vents the eggs through kind of thing. But so apparently 300 feet of rocks in this region deep. Like, so this water was so was this is my thoughts are it was like so immense that it was like physically pushing down to and carving and etching into, but then as it receded it kind of actually wasn't able to push down as much, so it was able to like allow for material to deposit in some places where it wasn't depositing before and had been etched. And as a result, it like etched really deeply in some locations, but then was able to leave behind the larger particles that got like lodged there, while the smaller things were just like filtered out by the current flows down through it all that was flowing through it all to like strain out the materials kind of thing. And then also there's a place called Eddy Narrows. Let's see if I can find it. Eddy Narrows. Eddy. Maybe Eddy Creek. Right, yep. Eddy Creek of all places. Eddy. Like an eddy. I wonder. I don't know why it's called that, but I mean, there's certainly a eddy around it. And it's at the boundary of the eddy and the opening of the eddy. So maybe it's kind of like, hello, welcome to the eddy. You are now entering the eddy. Welcome. You've got eddy. Okay, that's enough. I know it's enough. Delicate silts 9 mile. Dark striped. So the silts are dark striped mud, light colored silt layers, where the dark striped mud gets progressively thinner upward. So initially it's like many layers of, it would be good probably to find the video. It's similar to this. Many layers like this might even be it, that are like the dark mud, and then the silt layer that's a single-ish layer, and I noticed like a boundary down the middle of this one. Something going on down the middle, which is interesting. Down the middle, like these are just randomly deposited across time, we're saying. Like the water just kind of went through, deposited some stuff, put the stripe down the middle, like, oh, totally makes sense. Carried on with some. Like, without, like, chemical processes and, like, more than just kind of happenstance. It's kind of happenstance, coincidence kind of things. Maybe there's a more technical explanation for that stripe that I'm aware of or giving credit to. But it's not like central to a geological discussion, things of that nature. So I doubt it. Honestly. Not a good one. Maybe an attempt just to say we did it, but not like an actual explanation. And then, so there's less of these stripes as we go upward. The dark mud stripes become less frequent, and it just shrinks like the sizes of these. Sit in areas mostly deeply scoured canyon stretches. So this is the mostly deeply scoured stretch here. Which is really, okay, so we got a current coming out this way for sure. For sure, this, whatever's going on here, it wants to go out this way, but unfortunately, there's a lot of back pressure over here too. So this current just kind of goes through here, I guess. And maybe even by going around this thing, these two directions, and reconverging here, that's kind of eddy-like, maybe? I don't know. Maybe it happened there, even. Like everywhere, I don't know. So this though, is probably... Actually, Eddy Creek, interesting. I was not realizing. This goes this way, across here, and then up here, through Eddy Creek region. So there's actually... This is like the outlet, but before it actually is exited, so it's running into the boundary and just creating turbulence. Where this is cross current, I guess, going up this way. One way or the other. It looks like it's going this way, just based on here. Like some of it's exiting and some of it's continuing, maybe. So it's going this way, maybe. And then across here. Across here and then like out, maybe, like there. Let's get rid of these things again. If it goes across here and then finds a way out, maybe it finds a way out there too. Finds a more main way out. Finds a secondary way out. A tertiary way out. Like it does kind of look like it's flowing more with this direction of flow across this way. Like if it's flowing this way, it'd be putting like those same features this way. But it's putting them more this way, so I would say it's flowing around this way and then carving through straight paths that it just continues through. Maybe running into resistance though, and bending. Like here. Maybe another sort of resistance ring thing out here. But then coming across here, I guess. Okay, this is an hour. I guess I'm out of here. I'll see you guys next time. That's all I got for now. Something's definitely up here. I'm looking forward to getting some more pieces of this puzzle together. See y'all later. Peace.